Hi, my name is Kendall Dewey, and I am a sophomore in construction engineering and management here at Purdue. This past summer, I had the privilege of interning at Messer Construction Company in Cincinnati, Ohio. Messer is a general contractor that works in many different sectors of the construction industry throughout the Midwest. This summer, I worked on a new critical care tower that was an addition to the existing Cincinnati Children's Hospital. By the time I got to the project, it was already in the closeout phase and had been under construction since 2018, which means the decision to create this new tower and the design of it took place even long before that. This brand new, state-of-the-art wing of the hospital actually reached completion while I was with Messer this summer at the end of July. And this new tower added in over 632,500 additional square feet. It also added 294 beds for patients, and the project reached a total of just over $600 million. In a project of this magnitude, there was a lot that needed to be done over the summer before we could turn it over to the hospital for occupancy. Probably my most important task was taking a daily punchless walk. Every morning I would walk around the hospital with one of the foremen, and we would go through everything the architects had marked as incomplete. We would check to see if it had been completed, and if it had not, we would get in contact with the right subcontractors to make sure they knew what needed to get done. And although they consumed most of my time, it was also probably the most rewarding aspect of my experience this summer. At the end of every day, I would create a schedule for the next morning of punchless items that I would have to address with the foreman. An example of what that schedule sort of looked like can be seen in that middle image of this slide. I would go through each sector of the hospital and write down these items so I could keep track of what we hadn't seen yet, what we had seen and marked as complete, and what we had seen that still needed to be done. An example of what these punchless items might have been about can be seen up in the upper left-hand corner of this slide. They would often be about corner guards, and it would say the caulking on the corner guards was sloppy or the film had not yet been removed. And these items typically did not take long to fix and mark as complete. However, there are some other punchless items that took even longer. An example of that is seen up in the upper right-hand corner. You can see that each patient room had their own individual bathroom pod, and these pods were actually designed and built outside of the hospital, and once completed they were then transported and installed completely finished into each room. However, the subcontractor that created these pods went out of business once they were installed in the hospital. This caused some headache towards the end of the project when multiple issues arrived with both the doors and the plumbing within the pods. This required a lot of extra communication between multiple subcontractors and the project managers to ensure that all the problems were fixed in time. Another one of my major tasks for the summer was actually preparing the next bid package documents for the next phase of the project. Technically, throughout the summer, my duties were split between two projects: the new critical care building and the renovation of an existing tower at the hospital. The renovation of this existing tower was set to start in the summer of 2022, so I was tasked with creating and organizing the new bid package documents, as well as gauging the interest of possible subcontractors. Lastly, I did a lot of document control management throughout the summer. I would handle all incoming document releases from the design team. This often meant going through hundreds of drawings to ensure they were labeled correctly, and then sending them out to the correct subcontractors. I also helped process RFIs and submittals, and I would ensure those two were going to the correct subcontractors and that they were organized in Procore. The top left image shows all of the different drawing areas that a drawing could possibly be put into. One of the most demanding document releases I received included over 1,500 drawings that I had to go through one by one and sort according to the drawing type and drawing area. The submittals, although less time-consuming, were important for me to manage so that the architects and subcontractors were getting all the correct information in a timely manner. Throughout my experience with Messer over the summer, I learned some extremely valuable lessons that will serve me well both in my professional and personal life. My first piece of advice would be to not be afraid to ask questions. I am the type of person who loves to figure things out on my own. I want to feel confident in my abilities, and I don't want anyone to think of me as incapable, so I will often struggle through tasks on my own. However, this can be extremely inefficient, and I don't learn nearly as much. Before this summer, I had no experience in the construction industry at all, and I felt sort of out of place. However, I found that the more curious I was and the more open I was to asking for help, I began to further enjoy my work and learn more than I ever did before. My next big piece of advice would be to step out of your comfort zone. I am not always good at this, and I found my internship this summer was a good way for me to practice getting out of my comfort zone. For example, I have never been very confident in my ability to talk on the phone, especially in a professional setting, and about halfway through the summer I was tasked with calling over 150 companies, engaging their possible interest in bidding for the next phase of the project. This was particularly nerve-wracking for me because I would have to speak to so many people over the phone, but I also had to handle getting rejected by those with no interest in bidding. Although it took some initial courage to start the calls, I eventually got into a rhythm and was able to call each and every company. Completing all those calls was definitely my greatest triumph of the summer, because not only did I help with the project, but I grew as a professional as well. It was in that moment of uncomfortability that I learned the most and grew the most, so I would definitely encourage anyone feeling nervous about a certain aspect of the job to really lean into that uncomfortability, because it is extremely rewarding in the end. Overall, I am extremely grateful to Messer for giving me the opportunity this summer to learn more about the construction industry and providing me a first-hand experience on what it looks like to successfully close out a project like this one. Thank you.